Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen sink chapter, where I'm going to throw everything at you but the kitchen sink. The first thing I want to look at this first lesson is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I really love this feature, and I'll be doggoned if Adobe Illustrator does not keep improving this thing to the point that I find it incredulous. I don't even believe I said that word. Live trace, the tracing options. They've even gotten better in CS6. So what I have here, two flowers. They're copies. Each one's about 2.5 megs. And what I want to do with one of them, I'm going to leave the other one alone so we can kind of compare what live trace does, and you can make a decision on what you think you see. I want to make it a vector. I want to be able to expand it or contract it without pixelization problems. To be honest with you, I really feel, don't think I'm crazy here, I really feel that the future of photography is vector. And this is already being done in labs, and I've been talking about this for a couple of years. When you take a digital photograph, it's just an advanced piece of film with grains. The digital part of it, of course, is the pixels, and on film it's grains. But think of taking a mathematical photograph, no resolution. It would be an amazing world to live in. And to me, things like tracing is kind of like the beginning of the process of moving us to an area that we've never been in before, resolution-independent photography. Now, enough talk. Here's the photo that I want to change. Up here, you can see the word image trace. However, if you don't see it, and you will, but if you don't, go up to the word object and go down to image trace right here. So we've got that selected. What we're going to do is just click the button right here. Now, there is a default. It's basically black and white. That's what you're going to get. If you know what you want, because you've been using image trace for a while in earlier versions, you can click this little tiny button right there, and you can get the defaults and the other options. So, I mean, if you want to go high fidelity, if you want to go 16 color, you can do it right here. Let's just click the button and see what we get. Well, we get this black and white image. Now, that's not what I want. That's an interesting kind of way to look at the image, but that's not what I want. So, one of the features that's improved in CS6 is come over here. Now here's your preset. It moved over here. And you've got presets. That's fine. Click this button right here. And you get into these really cool features. Let's turn off advanced for a second here. Up here, you have some defaults. You've got your presets here again if you want to use them. You can view things as a tracing result. That's what it looks like if we were to save it now and then print it. Look just like that. You can say, well, let me see the outlines. And you can see all these little outlines that it thinks we want to convert. Let's take that back up here. You can say tracing and outlines, outlines with source image, etc. Let's go tracing image again. Down here we have a threshold. Now that kind of tells the computer how to convert black to white and white to black, and you can move that back and forth. But look down here. Right now we have 164 paths defining that image along with 2,604 anchor points. Two colors, black and white. Kind of interesting. But I want more than this. Now I can come up here, and this one is called auto color. And what it's going to do is it's going to auto trace this image and bring color into it and begin making it look, well, more like a photograph. There you go. Now we've got color in it, but if we compare it to this one, it still doesn't look like that photo, but I may not want it to. But what if I did? Is this program capable of making that image in vector look like a photo? And before CS6, I would have said, well, pretty close, but no cigar. Check this out. This option right here is high color. Click it. Now it'll take a minute for the whole process to happen. And this has a lot to do with your processing power, how many CPUs you have, how much RAM you have. Check that out. Now, my eyes don't see much, if any, difference between something made up of pen points and pads and fills, and what I see up here. That is absolutely amazing, but what does it cost us? Well, if you look down here, we now have 48,173 anchor points. That'd take a long time to do if you were making that from scratch. 4,585 paths, along with 2,678 different colors, filling all of those areas and paths. Now, you can even give it more color if you want to. And that would create a document, I tried this, of 115,000 anchor points with more color. You can change things like the palette. If I pull this back down again, in your advanced options right here, you can control the paths and the corners. In other words, if you go higher with this, it's going to be a more precise view of that particular flower, which means you're going to get more paths. Corners, again, if you go higher, they're more accurate. Now, images do have noise in them. So if you say reduce the noise, it'll look at areas of the image that look speckled, like they might be noise from the grain of the film, and it'll try to, well, actually try to remove those for you too. That to me is absolutely amazing. Now let's do this. Let's take it back down to something a little bit more conservative. So we'll go back to this one right here. Looks a little posterized, kind of looks like something you do in Adobe Photoshop if you use the posterized filter, but it is vector, it's not raster. I don't like that white box going around it. Understand once I convert this, and it's not converted yet, technically, it's still in a stage between photograph and pen drawing, I could remove that white because it would be a separate area, but you can do it now because in your advanced settings, you do have a button here for ignore white. And if I select that, it will be more than glad to get rid of it for me. Now, like I said, we're in a transitory state. We have a photograph, we have a pen drawing, but we're in the middle. It's still waiting for us to commit ourselves because as long as we're in the state we're in right now, which is called image trace, we can play around with it using all these options. Once we convert it into an actual pen drawing, that boat sailed. We can't use these anymore. So make sure you got the basics down here, that you've got what you want. Then you click this button right up here. It's called expand. Now it's probably only going to take a second, but there you go. You now actually have a pen drawing. That box, though, is still around it. Let me show you something. Come over here and pick up your direct selection tool. If I come over here and take a little bite out of that corner, that box is invisible. You can't see it, but it is still there. I don't want it. So I'm going to go ahead and press the delete key to get rid of it. And now you're looking at, I love this, you're looking at a conversion of a photographic flower into a vector. And if I come over here with direct selection, because this is actually a grouped image, and I can begin pulling this thing apart. Now I'll go ahead and undo that for a second. The different pieces go right back into place. I love undo. Okay, we've got it back together again. Let me close this out. And I'm going to move the whole screen over a little bit like this, because what do we do with this thing now? Well, we could print it. We could actually work with some of the effects up here, which could only be applied to things like Illustrator objects. You could have some fun there, see what happens. What I want to do with this, let me go ahead and select it. I'm going to move it and slide it a little bit further over this way, mainly because what I'm going to open up is pretty big. I'm going to go over to my color guide right here and click this button right there, which is Edit or Apply Colors. Now you'll notice it already starts changing on me. What I can do here is begin, because it's a vector, and it's now looking at all the different areas as controllable, unlike a photograph. I can come in here and begin playing. Now let's start over here by going to Edit right there. Now what you get is this color wheel area. And as I begin moving these out like this, watch how it changes the image. And we can move that a little bit this way, a little bit more this way. We can, if you want to, you can add more color information to it and then begin moving these around. If we turn off this button right here, which is a locking button, we can then control these areas and information separately. And then if you want to spin it again, you turn it back on and you can spin it, which keeps them, as they say, harmonious. You could not do that if this was a photograph. Illustrator allows you to do this to any vector object, not just our flowers, and you can have a lot of fun choosing and deciding the colors that you want to use. Being able to trace images to me is absolutely amazing, and no other version of Illustrator does it as good as CS6. On to the next.